So Microsoft once again reconfirms, reiterates, and reestablishes that there is no parity between an Xbox One S or an Xbox One X version of the game. And also, what is up with Microsoft not blocking or getting rid of these keyboard and mouse adapters? Is that the right call by leaving it up to developers? Let's talk about that, shall we? What is going on, guys? Randall Thor 19 back again with another video, and hope everyone is doing well. If you missed my last video, check it out. It's about EA maybe, potentially, possibly losing the license to Star Wars. Check it out when you got the time. But, you know, this always comes up about this issue of parity, and I'm going to talk about this first before I get into the keyboard and mouse things going on, is that people don't have an understanding of what Microsoft's rules are when it comes to an S version of a game and an X. Obviously, we all know that there isn't any exclusives on the X. The game has to run on it as well as the S. But lately, people have been wondering about, because of misinformation, that there's some enforced parity that Microsoft is putting out there, like you can't have different frame rates. And that's kind of the big thing, because obviously games on the X will have higher resolution than the one on the S, maybe even better performance frame rate wise in single player. But when it comes to multiplayer, people freak out if somebody's playing at a higher frame rate versus a lower frame rate. Take, for example, the issue with PUBG before it came out on the Xbox One game preview. If you recall, the player unknown himself put out a tweet saying that yes, or in an interview he said that the game will be 60 frames on the Xbox One X and 30 frames on the Xbox One S. And there was this huge debate between people that were for it and people that were against it. Now, being an X owner, I was all for the idea of playing PUBG on my Xbox One X, which I bought at 60 frames, you know, letting the game take advantage of the power that the system has versus having these artificial limitations in place so it performs well, right? Of course, a lot of people saw it the same way. People are like, this isn't fair to, you know, have a competitive multiplayer game with potentially different settings, like different frame rates going at it. It's just not fair. It's not fair to the people who own the Xbox One S. If they play PUBG, they're at a disadvantage because the X people are playing 60 frames. You guys recall that huge debate that went on? Well, it was all for naught anyways, because, well, PUBG can't even really hit 30 frames on the Xbox One X, let alone 60. But if you recall that opened up this debate about parity between S and X. And we never got a reasoning why PlayerUnknown said that the game would be 60 on the X and then having to backtrack the next day. We don't know if Microsoft mandated the game be parity, but then here's Mike Ybarra saying that there is no parity. They don't force any developer to make a game to a certain set of rules. It's all up to the developer to choose how they build their games. Graphics, resolutions, performance, frame rates, all that stuff. And what's interesting, again, is here we have Fortnite, one of the biggest games right now going, perhaps the biggest Battle Royale game, even eclipsing PUBG. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but in their last update on their website on February 9th, they said that later this month they're going to be adding an optional 60 frames mode for Battle Royale on consoles for PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox One X. And the mode is supposed to tune each console to maximize the frame rate while minimizing loss of visual quality. And I think that, number one, that's great that developer is coming out and giving the options to their players. Like, if you want this particular option to play at 60 frames, we're going to give it to you. But have you noticed anybody screaming parity about this? Because there's going to be a situation when Fortnite comes out and this update releases, there are going to be people playing at 60 frames and people playing at 30. There's that unnatural advantage that players are going to have And I haven't really seen people talk about it one bit. You know, I always would shoot 60 frames over 30. I think it allows for faster responses, and the game just feels like smoother, and it's a much better experience. To me, I understand some people want 30, but I don't hear people complaining like this like they did with the X. Of course, they're actually giving the option for this on all the platforms, including the base Xbox One as well as the Xbox One X. Of course, the X is more powerful, so it'll do 60 frames and probably have higher resolution, which means better draw distances, but still, nobody's complaining about this. Because, well, number one, it's not regulated to the X versus the S. But honestly, I would love to see something like PUBG do the same thing. And I think it's great that Microsoft doesn't mandate this stuff. They let the artist, they let the developer do what they want. If you want to have a different frame rate for your game on one system versus the other, then go ahead and do it. You have our support. If you don't, then go ahead. You know, there was the whole shenanigans with Destiny 2. People were convinced that Destiny 2 could run at 60 frames on the Xbox One X. And it came out and it didn't. Yes, it runs at native 4K versus whatever it runs on the PS4 Pro, which is dynamic. But people thought that, you know, there was some sort of parity mandate. But once again, here we have Mike Ybarra himself, vice president of gaming at Microsoft, saying, no, there is no parity. The developer can make a game however they want to make it. And I think that is awesome. Now, the other topic that I wanted to briefly touch about is keyboard and mouse. He was asked a question basically saying that, are there any plans to do anything about people using mouse and keyboard adapters like the Zim that play shooters on Xbox, that use this competitive advantage they have against other people using controllers? Because obviously keyboard and mouse is a superior way, or maybe not a superior way, but you can react faster, more quickly, with better accuracy using a keyboard and mouse than you can with a controller. It's just, those are just the facts. I'm not going to say it's superior because people enjoy controllers, people enjoy keyboards and mouse, but factually it allows people to react quickly, more accurately, with better precision, right? And people use these illegal, they're not illegal in the sense that they're illegal to buy, but they're kind of against the terms of service. You're not supposed to use it. They're kind of just these modding tools that you can use to kind of you plug your controller into the Zim, and it, like, you can use the keyboard and mouse. I'm not exactly sure how it works because I just use the controller, but people do use it because even when I play PUBG, even when I play some of the other shooters I play online, there do seem to be some people who move unnaturally, like they're not using a controller. And obviously, if you're using a keyboard and mouse on a closed platform like Xbox or PlayStation, well, you're going to have an advantage over people using the controller. And it's not fair, especially since it's not licensed. And that's kind of the key thing, is the Zim isn't really a licensed product by Microsoft. But he was asked, are there plans to get rid of it? And he responded with, developers have the choice to use APIs that detect and not allow these. Once again, it's up to them, but the capability is there. So Microsoft not only reiterates with the parity aspect that they don't mandate anything between S and X, it's up to the developer, they even have this towards the keyboard and mouse. That sure, they could ban it, but they're going to leave that up to developers. They'll leave that up to developers to run their games how they see fit. And he was once again asked, well, why don't they do that? And he said, because the Zim and other things like that are helpful scenarios with devices for accessibility, you know, people, gamers that are disabled, and that their general approach is to empower the developer to manage the game how they want. And I think that kind of, I mean, both of the themes of both of these kind of topics I'm talking about go to the theme of Microsoft letting the developers do what they want. So don't run to Microsoft and say, why are these frame rates locked on the S and the X? Why are they the same? We know the X can do better. Why is that? Fix this. Well, Microsoft will say, well, that's up to developer. Ask them. Why are you not banning these unlicensed keyboard and mouse, simulators on the Xbox so people have this unfair advantage? Once again, Microsoft says we could do that. We provide the tools for developers to ban those if they want, but once again, we don't force anything. It's up to them to decide how they run their game. If they want to get rid of it, they can. Here are the tools. I think that's pretty cool. And honestly, I do kind of wish Microsoft would ban and kind of force, in this scenario, to get rid of these unlicensed keyboard and mouse adapters. I understand that some people use them for accessibility things, and that's great, but I think the vast majority of people do use them to get an advantage, to try to get one over the fellow competitors on Xbox Live or PSN. But once again, Microsoft's sticking to their message that it's up to developers to make their game how they want to make it and basically run their online how they want to run it. So for better or for worse, that's how it is. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, hit that sub button if you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. You know what's up anyways. So I'll see everybody tomorrow with a new video. Peace.